Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe's Classic Video Games back with another cool pitch and bat machine, electromechanical pitch and bat machine repair for you this evening. I can't say pinball repair because it's not really a pinball machine. This is Williams' 1963 Major League pitch and bat baseball machine, and it's awesome. We've been working on it a little bit. We bought this at an auction years ago, and we finally brought it in, and well, we've had it here in our building, but we finally got it out, brought it out, and started working on it a little bit. So at the end of the last video, we were able to get the thing to play. And so we're going to move through it a little bit more. Now the thing actually was pretty much playing whenever we bought it, but we've been working through it and servicing things and getting more and more of it alive. So we worked on the pitching unit in the first video. It was a big problem. That thing was, here's our note. This is what it said at the auction. Machine works well, except the pitch unit is jammed. Coin door parts are missing, otherwise complete. So we figured out that there was a gear broke inside the pitching unit, and we were able to order one of those from the Pinball Resource. Great people, pbresource.com if you haven't been there. We were able to get that old 60-year-old gearbox to work, the motor. And so the pitching unit started working. We worked on the bottom of the playfield and the mechanism board underneath. We've got all of that, we believe, working properly. And we were able to start up a game and hit a few balls. Now everything's moving slow. The ball isn't pitching very fast. The bat's not working all that great, but it is working. And at the end of the video, it stopped pushing balls out. Right. So the next thing we're going to do is work in the back box. But I figured maybe we'd figure out. I'm sure the balls just didn't load back in properly. So maybe something has fallen down under there or in there that's jammed the unit. So we're going to check that out, and then we're going to move into the back box and do some things up there. That would be the next thing that we repair. So let me lift up the playfield and see if I can tell why that pitching unit is jammed, just to kind of put a finale to what happened at the end of the previous video, and then we'll move on back into the back box. All right, so when I lifted it up, the balls fell out the back into the back of the cabinet, and this screw fell out. So that screw had somehow fallen down in there and was blocking the balls so they couldn't roll back to where they go, which is usually the problem. So let's see if it'll pitch again. Oh, I didn't plug it back in. Hold on a second. I unplugged the control panel before I realized you didn't have to. That's a little better, but you see how slow it is. We'll have to work on that some more. But yeah, so the whole problem with that, it was just there was something stuck in it. A screw had fallen down in the track. All right, so no problems there. So we're going to work on the back box. One of the things I want to figure out is when the game starts, this moves, which is kind of strange. Those reset, but these don't reset. So I wanted to see if it's supposed to. Maybe it'll let me reset it here in the middle of the game. Look how crazy that is. You saw the score to beat just goes all over the place. As the men ran back home, the runs went back to 0, and the grand slam stayed the same. So I want to see, by the way, I have a replacement back glass for this. This is the original one. So I want to see if that's correct, and then we're going to clean back there and get all of that stuff doing its thing properly. You can see what we've got going on. So we've got 5 score reels, a coin unit, and then this run unit, lots of Jones plugs to clean, and a few relays. All right. So I'm going to look in the schematics and see if this Grand Slam unit, they're calling it, is supposed to reset, or what the deal is with that. Maybe it's just it stays at that, and that's a way that whenever you get to a certain number, you win a free game or something. Let's see if we can figure it out from the schematics. Okay, so the Grand Slam drum unit only has 1 coil on it, and the way it gets power is through the Grand Slam relay. So when the Grand Slam relay comes on, the Grand Slam drum unit steps up. So the only way it can move is if this Grand Slam relay comes in. So how does this happen? Well, this line, if you look, is a switch on itself, so that's the one that holds it on after it comes on. That's not how it turns on. So the way it turns on is through here. And it is if the first base switch, the second base switch, the third base switch, the number 4 relay, if they all come on, then the Grand Slam relay comes on. So in other words, there's nothing about that coming on at the beginning of the game or as it resets, so it's supposed to stay like that. So what do they use the Grand Slam relay for? Or the Grand Slam drum unit for? Well, one of the things it does, if you were to hit a Grand Slam, the Grand Slam, and a Grand Slam, if you're not a baseball fan, is if you someone is on first, second, and third, and then you hit a home run. It's the best thing you can do in baseball. Basically, you're getting 4 runs out of 1 home run because you drove all those guys in. They call it the Grand Slam. It's awesome. That's what everybody dreams of. So if you do get a Grand Slam, the Grand Slam relay is going to close, and then as the control motor turns around, they call it the score motor in pinball machines, but in this one they're calling it the control motor. As it turns around, it's going to flash a light. So there's some kind of light somewhere that's going to flash. So that's one thing it does. Another thing it does is it has something to do with lighting up the extra inning. It seems to me like you get 3 outs and you're done, so you only get 1 inning, but I guess you can go again at some point. Maybe if you get a Grand Slam, it gives you an extra inning or something. I don't know. So that's one thing that it does. And the actual drum unit has something to do with scoring a special. It makes the special relay pull in. So it has something to do with scoring whatever the special is. So I guess they can set it up where at certain places you score that special. If you look on here, it would be at position, I don't know if that's 1 or 0. We'll say 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So when you got 10 Grand Slams, I guess that would be at position 0 or whatever. On the wheel, it would say 0, so maybe that would be at 10. Whenever you get 10 Grand Slams, when the drum end of stroke switch pulls in, it would pull in the special relay. You would get a special for 10 Grand Slams. But that would only be if the Grand Slam replay adjustment is on. If it was off, well, I don't know. I guess it would still work. Grand Slam relay. I guess if that was on, you could get a replay at 4 and 6 Grand Slams. Something like that, maybe. I don't know. Sometimes stuff like that, you kind of figure out while you're playing it, or it'll say it on the instruction card, or it'll say it on the flyer. But my whole point is, I was just trying to see if the thing is supposed to reset at the beginning of the game, and it definitely is not, because there's no way for it to reset at the beginning of the game. So it's working perfectly. So on the Internet Pinball Database, they have the original flyer, which is pretty cool, and it says, replay model with extra inning feature and over-the-fence home runs. Extra inning for home run when the arrows are lit. So that's in the little back box going up the ramp. And it says replays for Grand Slam home run, and it says adjustable. Topping the score to beat, which does change at the beginning of the game. Total run scored, replays for total run scored, and replays for the match feature, which is adjustable. You can turn that on and off, or I guess adjust it. So in the back box, it may tell us something else too. So we were just looking at this, and there are Jones plugs over here that are to plug the harness into this platform here, right? And that's, to send all the signals back and forth from the mechanism board, the running unit, and up here in the back box. So you've got 3 plugs here, and then this whole thing can come out. But over here you've got a bunch more. All of these are for the settings. So there's a piece of paper here. It says jack adjustments sheet. So this says number match adjustment, on and off. So at the end of the game, they've got it on right now. At the end of the game, it's going to light up one of 10 numbers on the back box. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And if your number of runs matches the number that lights up here, you win a free game. If you look close, you might be able to see the 3 there. and the 4. So one of those is going to light up at the end of the game, and if it matches your right digit, you win a free game. And then this one says random reset adjustment. They have it on as well. Now, this one we figured out in the previous video has to do with this score to beat thing. So it's the mix relay number 1 and mix relay number 2, or number 1 mix relay and number 2 mix relay. It basically makes this score just change all over the place at the beginning of each game. So right now it's at 21. If I was to hit start again, it would change to 53 or whatever. It's just the weirdest thing. But if it happens to line up to a number that you can beat, if you beat it, you get a free game. So that's cool. Now look at this. Grand Slam adjustment. Replay at 3 and 6. You can either turn that on and off. So that was what we were just looking at. I didn't think it was 3 and 6. I thought it was 3 and 5 or something, but whatever. And they have it on. So they have set this thing up where it's the most favorable to you. So yeah, if you get 3 or 6 Grand Slams, it looks like you get a replay. This says extra inning adjustment, and then it says liberal, medium, or conservative, or off. It is set on off. So they don't have the extra inning as a factor. Okay. Score to beat topped. It can either be off or you can get 2 replays. They've got it on you get 2 replays if you beat the score to beat. And then this says 10 Grand Slam adjustment. You either get 3 replays or 5 replays. They've got it set on 3. Now the weird thing about this though is that since you can't reset it, somebody could have 9 Grand Slams on it, and you walk up, put a quarter in, and get 1 Grand Slam, and now it's at 10, and you get 5 replays. So let me double check that to make sure that's how that works. Okay, yeah, so I looked it up, and it appears that you can win, if it's at 9 and you step up and start playing it, as soon as you get to 10, you're going to win a 3 free replays or 5 free replays. And then that would be lit up 1-0. And I guess that's the Grand Slam flashing light that lights whenever you actually get a Grand Slam. So interesting. So if you're at 10, I wonder what turns off the light. I keep having to look things up. Anyway, I'll look that up too. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to turn off the power, and I'm going to clean these Jones plugs just to make sure they're making good contact. I use a little bit of sandpaper on the male side of the plug, and then you can use like a pipe cleaner for the female side of the plug. You just want to make sure they're making good contact so all of the signals get where they need to go and everything. I've already done that in the bottom where the playfield plugs in, and where the coin door plugs in, and where the control panel plugs in. But these are next. So that would be my first step. And then while you're at it, clean these as well, just so that they're all making good contact. You can imagine if you look at the schematics, if one of these is unplugged, like this one that turns the numbers match on and off, sometimes if it's unplugged, it needs to be one way or the other, and it will actually break the signal. And now on this one, you can see that if it wasn't on, this random reset adjustment, it would be off, and all of these have no wire hooked to them. So if that was just not making good contact, it would be as if it was off. So it kind of depends. I can't see one that's a good example of this, where it has to be one or the other, but whatever. But you get the point. We need all of that clean. So I'm going to clean all that up first, and then we'll move into some of this other stuff. All right, I know I'm belaboring the point, but I hope some of you find this as interesting as me. It's fascinating to me. If you follow the light bulbs, a lot of times you can figure out how things work. So there is a Grand Slam 10 light. So if you couldn't tell, basically that wheel can go from 1 to 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. Right? And then if it gets to 0, I guess, the light next to it lights up, which is the Grand Slam 10 light. So the 1 comes on. And the way it gets power is if the Grand Slam latch relay is on. So the Grand Slam latch relay lights up the 1, okay? So how does the Grand Slam latch relay come on? Well, it's right here. When the Grand Slam relay pulls in, anytime you get a Grand Slam, and it turns the Grand Slam drum unit. If the Grand Slam drum unit is at position 9, so it has 9 Grand Slams, there is a switch that closes at the 9th position of the Grand Slam drum unit. So the next time that you give power through, it's going to pulse the Grand Slam drum unit to 0 from 9, and it's going to turn on the Grand Slam latch relay. When the Grand Slam latch relay comes on, it's going to light up the 1. So now you're going to have 10 Grand Slams. It's going to say 1 lit up on the back glass and 0 on the reel. Right? Now, to get a Grand Slam, of course, you need the Grand Slam relay to pull in, and we just looked at that earlier. The first base switch, the second base switch, the third base switch, and then the number 4 relay, which I assume is the, if you hit a Grand Slam, it goes through that hole at the top and the switch closes, I guess, the number 4 relay, right? The motor relay, I don't know about that, but when all of those have closed, it pulses the Grand Slam relay. That's how you get a Grand Slam. But look, there is a switch on the Grand Slam latch relay. So whenever that comes on, because you got to 10, it turns on the light, but it opens up this switch so that you can't get any more Grand Slams. So in other words, you can get up to 10 and then it's going to stay there. So my whole question about, wow, if they had 9, you could walk up and you get one more and you win 3 replays or 5 replays or whatever. And yeah, it is set up like that, but you can only get up to 10. So why is that important? It's because Grand Slam latch relay, if you look up here, let me make sure I'm looking at this correctly. Yes. When the start relay trips at the beginning of the game, this switch is going to go down here. And it's going to send power this way. And it's going to come down through here. And it's this little line here we're watching, and it's going to come over here. It's going to run through these switches on the score motor. And one of the things it's going to do is it's going to trip the Grand Slam relay. The latch relay, actually. But it's going to trip that relay. Now, so what does that mean? It's going to turn off the light. So when it turns off the light, now you're at 0. So you can get up to 10 Grand Slams, and then it opens a switch so you can't get 11, you can't get 12, you can't get 16. And as soon as your game's over, yeah, you're going to win 3 or 5 replays. But the next guy that plays a game, which I guess would be you because you just won the replays, the next person to play the game, they're starting at 0 again. So it kind of makes sense. They're basically letting it build up to 10, and then you get your 3 replays or 5 replays. But you can't really game it that much unless you can get 10 replays very easily, right? So you don't, if it kept running where you could have 14 or whatever, and then it reset the 1, so now you're at 4, blah, blah, blah. So you get the whole point. So you build up to 10, and then it resets, and you build up to 10 again, and it resets. You build up to 10, and it resets. All right, so I cleaned all the Jones plugs, got them all shiny, where hopefully they're making good contact. And then I went through and I cleaned the 3 relays. So this one says the run relay. Assume that means if you hit a run. The score reset relay. That's to, well, I guess it's to reset these, but you know, remember one of them resets these. And then the high score relay, yeah, which would have something to do with that. I've mentioned before on these videos, you don't really even need to know what everything does. You just need to know how to clean them. So like if you get the relay where it's working the way the relays work, it doesn't really matter what it does. If all of them are clean and working, the thing should theoretically work. You kind of need to understand how it works to do troubleshooting. But if you ever get good enough where you can clean everything and get it back to working perfectly, I mean, how it's designed, they should all work together and you shouldn't have any problems. Doesn't usually happen like that, but it should. Okay, so now I'm working on this match unit, and this one is also locked slap up. The thing will not move at all. These don't just naturally do this. Somebody probably sprayed WD-40 on it. Have I went on that rant yet today? If you put WD-40 on one of these, it just dries like glue. Let's see if this one's locked up. That one's still kind of working. I mean, it ain't perfect, but it's working. Good as gold. So obviously they need some work. So yeah, this one, it's stuck. I took the nut off the side and the thing will not come off. So I'm gonna have to mess with it, mess with it, mess with it. The last one that I did took about 30 minutes to get that thing off. So let me see what I can do to get it apart so we can clean it and get it to step like it's supposed to. These stepper units are the main problem in these machines. In any kind of EM machine, in my opinion, the stepper units are usually the problem, because the relays, they will actually clean themselves, and you don't usually get in a situation where the relay's stuck. So usually, this is a good one, usually the relay will still move. This will still pull this in. So even if the thing's not working, if you let it sit there, it's going to eventually, the contacts are going to clean themselves like that till the point where power will go through them. These, though, they get stuck, and no matter what that does, it's just going to sit there. And if it never moves through like it's supposed to, it's just never going to work right. So I think the Jones plugs being dirty is a really common thing. But these stepper units are probably the #1 problem in any kind of electromechanical machine. All right, I was able to remove it and get the gear out, cleaned it all up with 3-in-1 oil, dried it off, put it back, cleaned the rivets with a little bit of sandpaper like I do, put a little bit of super lube on it. This stuff's great. You want the dielectric super lube. Oiled the linkage over here. There's no switches on this one. And look how nice it works now. Perfect. So it's just the match unit. It probably doesn't do anything but do a match. I don't know, there is a lot of wires. Let's look on the schematics real quick. Yeah, I hope you don't mind when I do that, but let's look on the schematics real quick and see if the match unit is being used for anything but winning a free game. Since it just moves around the whole time that you're playing, they sometimes, at least on pinball machines, they will make other things work depending on where the match unit sits, because it's a good way to get a semi-random number, you know. So let me look on the schematics and see if the match unit is used for anything besides lighting up the little light at the top at the end of the game that gives you a free game. Okay, so looking at the schematics again, you see that the match unit is used to light up the lights at the end of the game to show what you need to match to win a free game. And you can see that it only lights up when the game over relay latches. Game over latch relay goes on. So when the game's over, it sends power to those lights. And then if you look over here, you see the other part of the match unit is hooked to the 0 to 9 run on the drum unit, and it's used. That's how it does the math to determine if it's lined up properly, if you win the free game or not. But if you look here, there's another place that is drawn, and so there is a wire that goes on the match unit, and it moves around as the match unit turns. And then if it lands on this, or this, it's going to light up the extra inning indicator lights. So what does that mean? Well, if you look on the other side, we'll find it here somewhere. Here we go. If it is lined up on the correct number, and it's adjustable depending on where this plug is set. If it's lined up on the right one, the extra inning indicator lights are going to be on, and it will send power to the inning relay. And that will happen when power is sent through the home in switch. So that's going to be that switch up at the top of the playfield that I thought was the number 4 switch. So I guess it's not the number 4 switch. So whenever you make a home run, if you're at the right spot and the lights are on,
you will win an extra inning. Very cool. So it's kind of like winning a free ball, or free 3 balls, or whatever. I don't know. So yeah, so that's, and it's adjustable. So you can turn it off. So if you put it down here, none of these wires are hooked up. If you put it right there, one of the wires is hooked up. If you put it right there, 2 of the wires is hooked up. And if you put it there, all 3 of the wires are hooked up. So you have more or less chances to actually win an extra inning by hitting a home run at the right time. Very cool. Nice little design feature. So yeah, so without the match unit working, you wouldn't have been able to do that. Or it would have been stuck on it permanently. So even the match unit is important. You need everything moving and moving around. Now you just saw how we had it clicking. You know this baby's gonna work now. Yeah, that's how it ought to be. Okay, so I took the screws loose of this one so that I could lean it down and do the same with it. And it was also stuck on there, but it wasn't, it was still moving. You saw how it was kind of doing its thing. So this is the run unit, and these little things on the edge are when you would get a free game. So it looks like you would get one at 45 runs, 22, 24, and 26 runs. Now let's see if that's correct, according to their... According to this, it was 18, 24, 26, and 28. So I don't know. They may have just not had it set right. But that's what that's for. That's how you adjust that. Now I'm going to show you something on these that will hopefully help you a little bit. So this is the return spring. 1, 2 is about 2 turns. So it'll be hanging a little bit, and then you want to wrap it around twice before you hook it. This one was wrapped around 3 times. Now why would that be? It's so that you saw how it was having trouble resetting a minute ago, right? You shouldn't need to do that. You shouldn't need to wrap it around extra turns, because once you do that, once you put that spring around 3 times so that it resets all the way, it makes the reset stronger. The problem is it makes the step up harder. So you have to shorten these springs. So you don't want to do that. If it's clean, everything should work good. So watch. So it's hanging like that. So that's 1 turn. That's 2 turns. I got grease all over me. Okay, so we've got it hooked at 2 turns. Now it should be able to reset completely like that. Since it's not done 3 times, it won't be as hard to step up. Everything will work together. They work back and forth. These springs work against that spring. So when it steps in, it's easily able to advance it, right? Because it's not fighting this spring being crazy. And this particular one, when you get way up there with a ton of runs, it opens this switch. We'll see what that does here in a minute. And then it should reset all the way back to the beginning whenever this is pulled in. And of course it does. But that's easy for it to do because it had wound up the spring almost one more time, right? So what I always do is I'll step it up just a couple steps. Can it reset from there? Yeah, it can. Okay, so you just want to, if everything's oiled and if this is nice and clean and doing its thing, it should move that easily with just 2 lines on that, right? And that's one of the reasons that you use that super lube, because it makes it where those snowshoes can ride over those rivets really easily. And it originally had something like that on it. I was just cleaning off some of it, but people spray WD-40 and stuff on it, and it hardens over the years. Okay, so let me see what this switch is. Why would there be an open switch? So when it resets, it doesn't hit that switch. That switch opens when you're at like position 60 or something like that. So let's see what that switch does. All right, my schematics aren't great, so I can't completely tell, but it looks like what happens is the run switch is, I believe, the one where the batter hits it, or the base runner hits it right before it gets to home plate. That's what actually gives you a home run. And so the way it works is when that switch closes as the player runs by, and it literally moves mechanically if you haven't seen it working yet, the run unit step up coil pulls in. And so the run unit moves up, right? And so when the run unit moves up, that's the one that we're rebuilding right now. As it moves up, the run unit in of stroke switch closes, which turns on the run relay. So that switch, on these schematics that are scanned online, you can't really read it. But I think what it's saying is O at something on run unit. So I think it's saying open at position 40 on run unit, something like that. I don't know if there's enough room there for it to say that, but I think that's what it says. All this is folded over on the scan. Now, if you look, there's a similar one up here in a minute. Let me see if I can find it for you. On one of the other ones, and that's just the nomenclature that they use. Let me find it here. There we go. O at 18, replay step up relay. Opens at 18. And there's another one somewhere that said something similar. So I think that's what that's saying. If you notice, it's normally closed, which is how ours is. I think it's saying O open at, I don't know, 60 on run unit or something like that. So the point of that would be, once you get a certain number of runs, it won't allow the run relay to come in anymore, which is what actually sounds the bell and all of that stuff. You'd think eventually, though, they would have to stop the step-up unit from moving up, because at some point the thing would get to where it would get stuck. It can't go around past that switch, really. So you would think that it would be set up so that it would stop the run unit step-up coil from working. Maybe it does. So run switch, and where is it getting its power from? The home end switch relay. Yeah, I don't know. Well, even that wouldn't do it, because that turns it back to 10. Okay, well, let's see what that does. Or are they saying... Yeah, it just attaches it there. Okay, yeah, so it has something to do with making it where the run relay can't pull in after you get a certain number of runs. All right, so we've got 5 score reels that we have to mess with. So I pulled out the middle one, and this thing, same thing, it's locked up. Like this plunger, I pushed it in, and it's just sticking in. The whole thing's all gummed up. I blame WD-40. I honestly think it's WD-40. Look how clean we got this. All right, let me take this off and we'll look under there. Let's see what's underneath it all. All right, so here's our first indicator of gunk. What is this? See how it's orange? That's WD-40, man. And women. Yeah, so they just get a bunch of gunk on it. I hate to take this off, because if you get it or it's not lined up right, we'll just try to remember that it was like that. Y'all will remember that it was like that, right? Thanks. So this is what runs it on. See how the plunger's still stuck down? See how the spring is extended? So it's trying to pull it back, but it can't. The whole thing's locked up. You can force it. So yeah, that thing's just all dried up. So I'm gonna have to pull this up and out. Now, if you're wondering about, oh, make sure you get the wheel back on right. If you look really close, there are nipples. I say that with all respect. We all love nipples. So there's a big one, and then different size ones. So that thing will only fit back on there one way because they've keyed it. They've keyed it with nipples. So I'm going to take all this apart, oil the crap out of it with 3-in-1 oil. And then it'll be good for another 60 years. Don't worry about it. All right, so I've oiled it up now. Now, this is a weird little switch here. I'm going to check to make sure this is right. But if you look, see how it turns great now because we oiled it. But see how it smashes these three together? But if you look over here, there's only 2 wires. So I think that one blade isn't actually doing anything. It's just to help close that blade. I think it's just, so it has a way to do it. But I'm going to look it up because it could be, if you look, there is a wire attached to the frame. So this entire metal piece is either grounded or is connected to some signal. So it could be that these screws are somehow attached to that blade. I've seen them do crazier things. So it could be that that is a 3-way switch and it's not actually supposed to be touching that middle one right now. So I'm going to look in the schematics and see if I can figure that out. You can see how valuable schematics are whenever you're working through something that you don't know much about and you just don't understand the operation of, or that you're still learning about. So it's the Grand Slam unit. Let's see if there's a 3-way smash switch on it or if it's just a 2-way switch, a regular switch. Okay, so it says Grand Slam drum end of stroke switch. Now notice I was talking with Kim at the Goat Shed online about this the other day. Williams, they were sloppy with their naming and stuff. So that says right on it that it's the Grand Slam unit. But this is calling it the Grand, G-R-A-N, Slam drum, which, we know what they're talking about, but it's actually the Grand Slam unit end of stroke switch. Right? So it's slightly different, which is confusing whenever you've got like a run relay, a run unit, all of this, right? So they're not, Williams wasn't real even with the way they named things. Even on the schematics compared to the machine, the thing is different. He was talking about how it says that there's a latch and a reset and a hold and a trip, and how they might say latch, reset, hold, or trip, depending on what they're talking about. But if you look clearly, there is only one switch there. So that extra little piece must just be so that the end of stroke hits it instead of it hitting the actual switch. They're just using it literally as a physical thing so that it can more easily hit that one blade. So enough of that. So I'm going to put it all back together and we'll make sure that she works right. All right, so if you look, there's one big one and 2 small ones. So you can't mess it up, people. It won't even go the other way. I don't know. I guess if you're really bad at messing things up, it's possible that you could mess it up. But I'm pretty lucky. So normally I'm all right. Okay, so if I pull in the plunger, you see how now it moves. Look how good it moves. Very snappy, very clean. Lands on the spot every time. I mean, you could almost say it's perfect, but I wouldn't want to brag like that. So it's nearly perfect. All right, so I've got these other 4 to do. And then we need to look at the coin unit, and see what they've done about free play. But we're about done in the back box here. All right, I got all 5 of them clean, and I left them on a number other than 0 so we can see if they reset, but I'm sure they will. It's such a cool design, you can tell if the thing's going to work or not. Okay, so this is are they calling this one the coin unit or the replay unit? Replay unit. It depends on the company. So it's just the same old steppers. If you've seen one of these, you've seen 100 of these, and this one isn't even going to be used because the machine's on free play. And the operator removed all of the stuff on the coin door. Now, why in the world would they do that? I've been over this before, but operators, a lot of them were very superstitious.
is it superstitious? Is that the best word for it? They were superstitious. A lot of them, literally superstitious. But they also, a lot of them, they're set in their ways and they do things a certain way and they're paranoid and there's all kinds of crap going on. You got to remember too, a lot of operators, and again, look, I can say whatever I want. I used to work for some operators. They were good guys, but I'm not talking about anybody in particular. A lot of operators, not all operators, a lot of operators, to go ahead and stereotype, some of them were into some illegal stuff, illegal gambling, all kinds of stuff like that, right? So they were paranoid anyway. They didn't want you bringing the heat around here, okay? But anyway, one thing that they didn't like was they didn't like selling a game and then somebody using it en route and making money with it. They hated that crap. So they had this dilemma where they wanted to sell some of their old equipment because they didn't need it anymore and they weren't making money with it, but they didn't want you to be able to make money with it because you'd be their competition. And so on a lot of games, they would remove everything on the coin door so that it couldn't be operated. So this one's still got some of the stuff, but they've removed what holds the coin mechs, and yeah, it's just what they did, right? And so they set it on free play, and so you just hit start and the game starts. Now the way they did that was, as this replay wheel ratchets off, comes back and goes back down to 0, where there's no credits on it, it will open this switch. And eventually it's going to do that. Here, I guess I can show you. Since I got it working so well, I can show you what it looks like when it gets all the way back. Well, it's hard to do this with your finger. The thing gets stuck with the springs and all that. Anyway, you get the whole point. When it gets back to 0, you gotta get these things. Is that the best way to do it? I think that's the best way to do it. So when it gets back to 0 on the front, it will open this switch. But what they've done is they've taken the 2 wires that it would separate by opening the switch and just taped them together. So that's how they put it on free play, which is, you know, one way to do it. So no matter what this ends up saying, it's still going to be on free play. Now, when it gets, every time you win a game, I believe this end of stroke switch here is what's going to make the knocker fire, if there's even a knocker in this thing. I have yet to see a bell or a knocker. Have they stolen parts out of it for me? That would suck. I wonder, surely there's a bell in this thing or something. Maybe it's down here. Maybe it's on the back of the cabinet. There ought to be a knocker and a bell somewhere. We'll look that up here too. But usually that is triggered by this. So if they've got it set up where the coils are still working, you'll still get the knocker and everything that people like, but you just won't get, it won't cost anything to get that. So that's kind of how this one's going to end up being set up. All right, and if you're worried about the cosmetics like the back glass and all that, we're going to do all that on the last video. So we're not messing with any of that yet. We're just working through some of the electronics. So hopefully if anybody else decides to work on one of these, they'll see at least how I did it, and then they can decide if I'm an idiot or not, and they would rather do it better, which would be fine with me. But at least you'll have some roadmap if you try to fix one of these yourselves. I would like to see every one of these get fixed because they're so cool. All this old EM stuff, I'm gonna do this sucker one of these days. Joker ball. It's like a gambling game. But the back glass is destroyed. So I need another back glass. There's a guy that's got one that's the wrong one on eBay. But it's the wrong color and stuff. This one's got a piece broken out and it's just all screwed up. I can't use it. So I've been trying to find a replacement back glass for it. No luck yet. Now, whenever I say that, people always say, oh, you can do this, that, and the other. Yeah, I could, but you're talking like 20, 30 hours worth of work to get something that I would rather get within like an hour's worth of work. So, yeah, I know you can scan it in and all that, and if I did that work myself, it'd take probably 200 hours of work, and it's just, I do this as a business, so I have to make some money on it, and that's going to be a tough sell anyways. But I love these EM games. I've got a whole bunch of stuff like that. They're just really cool, and there's only so many of them left around. They've trashed a lot of them. So anyway, I hope everybody can fix these, every one of these. Let's see if we can find a knocker or a bell still mounted in this sucker somewhere. Okay, so the schematic mentions a small bell. So there's at least one bell. Let's see if I can find any other ones. Oh, the schematics mention a run bell. So there is a run bell. Oh, the schematics mention a knocker coil. So there is a knocker coil. And just like I was just saying, the replay unit end of stroke switch will make that go off. So I would guess that's it. 2 bells and a knocker. Let me make sure I don't see another one. That's all I see. Okay, let me look and see if they're at the back of the cabinet. Well, it's hard to see, but there is a bell right there. Now, there's a bunch of wires and stuff hanging down in there. Let's illuminate it. I can't hardly see it from the front. It's just hard to get to. It's in the worst spot. Someone has stolen part of this stuff. Look at this. Look at those wires. Look what they've done. This ought to be illegal. I don't know how people keep getting away with this. Let's see. Let's see if I can get some light down in there where we can see it well. Yeah, look at this. Look. There's wires and stuff just hanging. And you see that on the side there? Look at that. Look. Look, they've taken all the stuff off. That's probably where the knocker was, right there. Bastards. And then it looks like there's a bell missing. There's only one bell. But I think I can make it ring so you can hear it for the first time in forever. It's unplugged. They've removed a wire from it. So we'll have to get all into that at a later point. But you want to hear it, you can hear the run bell for the first time in years. There you go, folks. So yeah, they've stolen the freaking a bell and I can't hardly even tell. Crazy. All right, so I'm going to start it and we're going to see if it resets. Now, it seems like these should reset to 0. That's the runs. The Grand Slam should stay where it is. It's at 9. And then the score to beat kind of ought to go crazy. It ought to start doing all kinds of stuff, going through all kinds of different numbers. And it seems like that lands on a random number at the beginning of each game. I think that's how it's set up because of that one plug. So let's see if it's going to cooperate. I'm going to hit start. Very cool. Okay, so those did reset to 0. And then this one, if you noticed, it got about 7 hits on this one, and then it gave it 1 on the 10. So it went from like 11 to 17 or 18, and then it went to 28. So you would think, oh, well, something's wrong. I think that's how it's designed. I think that's how it's designed. And if you look down here, that light being on is because of the match unit. So if I were to hit a home run in there right now, we would win an extra inning. Should we try that? Can I fake a home run? Oh, look. Oh, and I swung the bat. Oh, round and round it goes. You didn't get to see the you didn't get to see the baseman run. Look, folks, I can't show the whole thing. Extra inning. So let's see what that means. There's an out. Out and a double. So I guess it gave me the double. Now, the pitching unit we need to speed up. The bat seems to work pretty good. But the pitching unit definitely needs some work still. The double. Single. I'm scoring all kinds of runs here, people. Yeah, if the ball gets faster, the bat will hit it better, too. But we may need to work on the bat a little bit, too. But we're getting there. That's a dud. Another double. Another double. All you got to do is try to keep it in the middle, folks. There's an out. Okay, that's my second out. Oh, I guess I should be seeing if these periodically light up. Have they lit up again since we messed with it? Okay, there's my third out. Extra inning is flashing. Wow, how did they flash it? Cool. No computer, you know? I mean, there's no easy way to do that. Well, I guess there's an easy way, but... So extra inning, is it just one out? Or do I get three? I mean, obviously, you should get 3 outs, but... It's like I won a free game. There's a single. Single. Double. Out. Okay, yeah, so you get a whole inning. Second out. Single. Single. I haven't seen the home run extra inning lights come back on, but you know what I was just thinking? They're not going to let you win an extra inning twice because they don't have any way to do it. More schematics we need to look up. We've got to learn how this thing works, folks. I got three things I want to look up. And you thought the video was almost over. It won't take us long. Don't worry about it. You might learn something. I know I will. There's our third out. Game over. All right, folks, so there you go. Now, if you didn't see earlier in the video or in the previous video, we have another back glass for this, so this isn't going to be a problem. We also have a new plastic for here, so that's not going to be a problem. We're going to repaint the cabinet, so that's not going to be a problem. We have the playfield glass, so that's not going to be a problem. The playfield is in really nice shape, just needs cleaned up. That's not going to be a problem. So this is going to end up being a pretty nice game. So join us back here next time. I hope you enjoyed tracking down some of the interesting things in the back box. Next time we'll work on the running man unit. Yeah, it works, but I want to make sure everything down there is working. I don't even know completely what it's supposed to be doing. And then I also want to work on this target unit down here. That is also working, but could, I'm sure, use a little bit of cleaning. And we'll do that on the next video. So we'll see you then. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, if you like these pitch and bat games, we don't get these too often, but we did do another one a few years back. I'll put it up right here until we get the next video of this one ready, and then I'll put that video right here. So one way or the other, you're going to see a pitch and bat game right here. We'll see you on the next one.